Three, two, one, and we are live. Welcome everyone to the very first episode of The Hub, your weekly fix for all things film and television. This is the first live broadcast episode, but it is going to be in chronological order, so this is in fact our third episode. Please welcome the very lovely Jonathan Hansler. Good evening, buddy. How are you?
Well, good afternoon, I should say.
Good afternoon, yeah. Good evening,
getting on with this madness, really, aren't we? I mean, this is just crazy. What's going on at the moment? It's nuts. And I'm being on my own. I hope there's I can understand a lot of people on their own out there having a bit of a difficult time. And I'm totally with you because it can be very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird in that because it's not something that we've ever faced before, at least not in modern times. I mean, I suppose if you think, I had this conversation with my brother just the other day, and he brought up like the Great Plague and the things from way back in the day. But this is never, I think, at least not in recent history. But the one thing I think that's kind of come out of this is, for maybe the first time, maybe ever, we as a human species are fighting against something that is a thing, not a person. It's a thing, not a religious belief. It's a thing, not a belief system, and it's not another person. So for once, and even it's been, what is it now, 40-something days into the lockdown, officially anyway, at least, there seems to be more camaraderie between people. People seem to be happier. Go figure. We're all stuck inside, but we seem to be kind of happier people, and we're more there for each other, which I think is really nice. And I hope that when we come out of this, that we remember that.
But I sense people are always being very helpful as well. There's a sense of helpfulness. People are very looking after each other. There's a sense of that, which is a really nice thing.
Absolutely. I mean, sure. I mean, just this alone. I mean, something and to this kind of style. I mean, artists have come out in their droves, in their hundreds of thousands from all over the world. Just the other day, I was talking to you last night when we tested this. Elton John and Rod Stewart, and I don't remember who the third person was, but my brain's telling me it's Chris Martin from Coldplay, but I could be wrong. But anyway, these people come out. I mean, the boss, Bruce Springsteen, did a live concert. Yeah. There's comedians doing stand-up. Now, not all of it's going to be good, of course. But, the fact is that people are coming out in their droves, their hundreds and their thousands, and if this lasts long enough, maybe the millions, to support. And I do hope that when we get back to normal, and if there's politicians out there listening from any corner of the globe, the next time you're facing a budget, don't forget about us. Because, people always make the arts feel like it's not an important part of society, and this has shown us that we are abundantly important. And I just hope that's not forgotten. I hope people, remember that.
I think one of the things we have to remember is that, I've certainly spent most of my life, making people smile. And there's a price, that's a wonderful gift to have. And there are many people out there who I think are funny people who do make people smile or make people laugh or make people see something a different way. And that is really valuable. I mean, that's more valuable than I'm not being rude, but your bankers or your whatever, or, even your politicians. Mm-hmm. What we do is the art of comedy, or the art of making people laugh, or yes, it does come from a damaged background, and that is a sad thing. And I'm one of those people, unfortunately, who have one of those. But the gift that I was given as I think it was Groucho Marx said, "Blessed are the cracked, because they let the light in," which I think is a wonderful thing.
Very good. I like that.
A wonderful thing to say, because it is true, if you're slightly cracked, you see things in a slightly different way. I mean, my hero, Peter Cook, he was always called at a slight angle to the universe. He wasn't straight on like most people. He was at a slight angle to and I love that phrase. Mm-hmm. And I sort of think of myself a little like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it doesn't, not just artists, but primarily artists, but anyone really who's like, there's so many examples of people like Peter Cook, for example, or let me just throw it out there, like Prince, or even Elton John, or these people, right? Yeah. They seem to be on their own keel. They seem to be on their own little trajectory, and it doesn't happen to maybe align with the masses all that often. But maybe that's what makes them great. Because, that's what makes them awesome.
I was listening to something very recently, and somebody said about being a rebel. He said, I don't want too many of them. I think it would just flood. We can't have too many rebels in life. It wouldn't work. But the ones that we do have, we should be glad that we've got. And one of my heroes is Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. Now, you may argue that I was listening to the Sex Pistols recently, actually, and some of their music and some of their lyrics are fucking good. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know, but Steve Jones was I think Rolling Stones' #3 guitarist of all time. So people saying the Sex Pistols are a shit band. They're not. I mean, they're you know, it's horses for courses. If you like punk, then you'll like punk. If you don't like, but certainly you cannot argue or you cannot fault. He's a very honest man, Johnny Rotten. He speaks his truth. He says he can't stand lies. He can't stand bullshit. And he said that's why he hated Malcolm McLaren, because they ripped them off and all that kind of thing. But I totally go along with that. But also he was a guy who paved the way. He was a guy who, you know, pushed the envelope. You know, he was a troublemaker, and troublemakers are the people who make this world work. You know, if we didn't have troublemakers in this world, I'm a bit of a troublemaker myself, I think, Rob.
Bit of a scallywag, huh?
But I wouldn't say a scallywag, but I would say certainly someone who stirs the waters of mediocrity.
And rightfully so as well. So I'm just taking a sip of my tea there, my bucket of tea.
That's all right.
You know, actually, I was thinking that I've been watching all these different people, you know, whether it's all these different places doing all these different things. And what we will get on to, and this could be actually quite a nice transient, actually, is a lot of people are drinking. A lot of people are partying at home and they're drinking and they're doing all these things. I haven't put not as much as a tipple of alcohol near my face since this started, but I don't have the want to. It's there. I got it in the kitchen. I got some.
I'm sorry, I can say that's wonderful. I'm so glad for you, because I hate it.
Yeah,
I killed my father. Why would I like this shit? It ruled me, Jay. It ruled me for, 30 years, 35, maybe longer. I don't know. I mean, I've become a lion and a wolf, not a sheep anymore, because I cannot follow a crowd. I won't follow. I'm my own soul, you know, my own human being. And I think when you start to think like that, you start to see a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And I think the trouble with pubs and drink and all that is people are led by other people. And certainly my career was fucked. And I was winning. I won an Off West End award. I was nominated for an Off West End award. I won a Best Actor award. And I was pissed all the time. I don't know why anyone gave them to me. I would have thought I was a crap actor. I think my better work has only happened in these last 6 years when I've been sober. I'm like a baby learning to crawl, you know? I'm learning to crawl again from the place where I was. And I'm only I look at myself as being 6.5 in this. And that's a crazy thing to say. Mm-hmm. But really, that's looking through new eyes. And really looking at, you know, back in 2013, when I was putting a fake smile on for all the world and pretending I was someone I wasn't, you know, those were horrible days. Mm-hmm. And I lost so much. But I lost women to other men who, anyway, it's all in my poem. You've probably heard my poem.
I did, yeah. We're going to play it in a few minutes. Just you sent this to me a little earlier before we went on, and I want to play it now in a few minutes because first of all, I think it's fantastic. So honestly, I think it's wonderfully written and performed and everything else. But I've known you now, and I've had the good fortune to know you for, what is it now? A couple of years, Johnny, is it?
I did it in the bath.
Three.
What?
You done it in the bath? I said I've had the good fortune to know you now for...
Lockdown, I wrote it in the bath, but it's like as if my truth just poured out of me and I couldn't stop writing. It was really important. Yeah,
I think it's really wonderful. Sorry. But it sums up, I think, in a lot of ways. Or as I said, I've had the good fortune to know you now for, I think it's 2 or 3 years at this point, and you know, it tells. I think it tells the people listening a lot about maybe some of the trials and tribulations that you've been through, and of course we'll go into that a little in much more detail, or as little of it, or as much as you'd like, of course. But I think it's very helpful, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to start off the podcast with yourself as well, because yes, this is as the tagline says, your weekly fix for all things film and television, but it's also a place to give a platform for anyone to have a voice. And I think in this day and age, and especially in this time, something like this that can be streamed relatively with ease into people's homes and into their cell phones and give people something to watch, a voice, something to listen to. Know that if you're out there and if you're struggling with these things, you're not alone. You are absolutely not alone, and anyone can ask for help. So I think I want to go back a little bit and just say... What
I want to say one thing, Jay. I want to say one thing. It's really important. You get my age and you forget everything, but I want to say one thing, and that is basically that in this industry, we are the industry that seeks love. Mm-hmm. We are the industry that people go to be appreciated, to be loved. Dentists don't go to be a dentist because they want to be loved. They want to fix teeth. You know, they might get a compliment going, "Oh, you did very nice teeth. My teeth are very lovely." But, you know, we go into this business because we want appreciation. We want to be loved. Now, what worries me is how many people like me who haven't faced up to those things in the past, who are scared perhaps of being able to say these things for the fear that they won't get cast. That's what my original fear was, which is why before I did some television documentaries for ITV, and I did thing on boarding schools, A Secret Shame, and I did another television. I spoke to my agent beforehand, and they said if this had been, and this was 2017, and none of this stuff, you know, all this stuff about Epstein, all this stuff that comes out now, all this stuff about abuse, it really has skyrocketed. And we are now in a situation, I spoke on length to the Truth Project, which is the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse at the moment, and there is nowhere for these fuckers to run anymore. The barriers are down, and we are really, really starting to kick ass, and people, you know, are not able to hide now, and I'm so grateful because those people ruined my life, and you know, and I hate those shits, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was saying this to you last night actually as well, is, you know, it's this mentality. It's the mentality that you currently have, and I hope that everyone will eventually, and the sooner the better, get to that place. Because if you go, do you know what, such and such happened to me, or this person did that to me, but I can't say anything about it, and especially if you're in our game, you know, if you're...
Speak. It makes the world so much easier. Honestly, if you say what you feel, you're only being honest. Yeah. I said it. Go back to Johnny Rotten, a man who is an honest person. I'm only being honest. Mm-hmm.
Because
and I'm saying how why would I wander around the rest of my life with ghosts in my background going like, oh well, I can't say this, oh well, I may as well kill my, you know, why would I do that? I've been through dark times, don't worry, but I don't want them anymore, thanks very much. I want to feel better in myself, and the only way I can feel better in myself is by saying these things and making sure that people out there understand this stuff is this stuff happened, and if it did happen to you, don't worry about it, say it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're very lucky. We have in our industry, in drama schools, we have therapists. We have these things. We are now taking into mental health as a very important thing. There was a time, certainly in my life, and I'm sure in yours, where people abused people in this industry. I've seen it. So I only saw it 2 years ago. I saw it last year. It happened to me twice in 1 year that I was abused by people who were admittedly under 30, but, you know, who thought they were some kind of god. And they had more wisdom than someone of my years. And it's infuriating in a way, because we are underestimated as who we are, and I can't stand that.
Absolutely. And I think also as well as, well, a couple of things. First of all, bravo to you, my friend, for doing what you did, and to everyone else out there listening that came forward in whatever respect that might be, bravo. Because it's only with that mentality, it's only knowing that the animals, the predators, because that's what they are. It's if they know that they can do what they want and get away with it. Like I don't want to go on to Harvey or anything, because that's a scapegoat. That's an easy one, but at the same time, it's a good one.
It's an extension.
It's an extension, exactly. But like, you know, people even in his at his level was brought down, and the guy's in prison for probably the rest of his life now, and rightly so. And it's only with people making those moves, and such as yourself as well, that if you are inclined to be a predator of that nature, and maybe you have it in your head, oh no, do you know what, I can't do that because I can't get away with this anymore. Now, that's not exactly the right position to be in. You'd want them to just not want to do that, because that's just, you know, but at the very least, getting to the point where they know that they can't get away with it is a good deterrent, and if nothing else. So if you're out there, if you're listening, if you've ever had any of this, oh, and by the way, we're live now on let me just check. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So you can comment in as well if you have anything you'd like to say or contribute. Please do. You can ask Johnny a question or myself. Please chime in and let us know. And also any relevant or pertinent information that we talk about today. All the links for support systems will be in the description below. And also, one of the reasons as well is primarily, when you hear about situations like this in the media or whatever it is, there's a couple of things. Number one, it's primarily females. So if you are a male that this has happened to, there's a stigma in our society. Oh, you're a man up, get over it. It's not so bad. It's all good. It's not the same. It is the fucking same. It is the same.
It is. And I'll tell you, really weird. I spoke to somebody very recently. In fact, I spoke to a therapist very recently. This is going to sound really strange. For many years, I couldn't really grow facial hair. And this is going to sound really weird. It's only really in the last, I mean, it's a fucking huge beard at the moment. I don't know what's going on, but this is only sort of in the last 3 or 4 years started to happen. And they told me that it was repression. They said to me, it's repression, that you couldn't, because your masculinity was threatened for so long. Wow. That you weren't able to actually express. Therefore, when you can't express, it's all hidden. So you're not able to be yourself. Mm-hmm. So, I'm becoming a caveman at the moment. I'll probably end up.
I think it's cool. I like it. You got a real California surfer look going on. I love it. But do you think, Johnny, was it because of those situations that you went through, and because of those the suppression of your masculinity and all those different things that you said? Do you think that's at least partly one of the reasons why you turned in some way to alcohol as a release, as a, you know what I mean? Because alcohol is an inebriant. It can take you to another place and make you, maybe more or maybe more outwardly going than you may normally be. So do you think maybe that was at least partly the reason?
I'm going to say something about Peter Cook again, and Peter was somebody who we know as a comic genius, but what we don't know about him, and I think if you go back to some Parkinson interviews in the 70s, and there's a bit time when he says what was Parkinson says, what was your time like at boarding school, Peter? And what do you remember most about boarding school? He says, well, trying to avoid burglary. And I think in that statement, now the audience laughed, in those days laughed. The whole room was full of laughter. That would not be the same today. And I think in those days, I think there's a big sign there that he couldn't say it. He was a well-known star. He couldn't say what was really going on. And I think there was a sign there that he was abused. And I think it happened. I think this is why he hit drink. I know that's what happened to me. And I know from my abuse and what happened to me in my suppression was alcohol was the way out. Booze was the way out. Drugs were the way out. Cigarettes were the way out. Anything I could take which heightened my level of experience was the only way to go. Mm-hmm. And when Peter once was questioned by his wife, he says, Peter, why do you drink so much? He said, despair. He actually said despair.
Really sad.
And I think there's a great truth in that.
It's really, really sad. I feel so heartily sorry for Peter and yourself and anyone else that went through this terrible time, to feel that that's your only release, to feel that, that these people, whoever they may be, have that sort of a power over you. And especially in our industry, if you are you work in Tesco's or you work at the local library or something, and someone does this to you, well, then you go to your HR and that's it, game over, generally. In our game, it's not the same. You cannot speak out because the people who do this are always in positions of immense power, whatever facet that might be in. Usually it's around the power of putting one into a movie or producing a movie or finding money for it or so forth. So when you speak out against him or her, then people go, oh no, can't talk about that person. It's better to put Johnny in the corner than to put person X, because person X makes the studio $25 million a month.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And this business is the problem we had. It's interesting that I have a fear of authority. That's not surprising. But what is interesting is that in what I can do extremely well in this industry is play my fears. Mm-hmm. I play villains. I play psychopaths with great ease because I know what those fuckers are like. I know how that mind works. I've seen certain people in my life go fucking mental. Mm-hmm. And I know what that's like. So I can actually tick into that with great ease. However, I wouldn't want to see these people in a million years. This would be terrifying the living shit out of me, these people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Authority is always, I've loathed. That's why I think I became a rebel, or in my heart, someone who does rebel against the system, or a nonconformist, because I cannot stand authority in the authoritarian sense.
I have to agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Now, thankfully, I've never went through the situations in which you did. But again, to go back to our industry, you come into this, and if you're very, 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 very lucky, and daddy or mommy happens to be producer, whoever, and then bam, you're straight off to the races. If you're not, and if you're 99.999% of the rest of us, then you got to work your ass off. And it's so, this. Anyone in this game, anyone listening who is in our game knows this wholeheartedly. You could spend 25, 30 years never knowing where the next paycheck's going to come to. And that is crushing sometimes. And then couple that with not knowing where my next job's coming from, not knowing how I'm going to pay rent, not knowing where my food's coming from, not knowing am I any good, am I respected, am I wanted, all of that. And then couple that now on top of that with some fucking monster taking advantage because of that. And a number of other situations.
Exactly. I as a result of what happened to me, I'm on PIP. I'm on anxiety. I get anxiety. I'm getting better now, but I went to see a therapist, and they said, I told them my story, and they granted me. I didn't think I'd get the bloody thing, which it can help a lot these days. Mm-hmm. But I suffer from anxiety. Now, if only people in this industry, if we could have an area where people, I think some of the greatest performers in the world suffer from anxiety, and
Absolutely.
I think they give the best performances because what we used to call anxiety was nervous energy. We don't call it nervous. We say, oh, he's got so much nervous energy. Isn't he? You look at someone like Rick Mail, right? Mm-hmm. What was going on there? There's a man who's going at £25 million Look at John Cleese. All the people I kind of play, I suppose, in many ways. But you look at those people, there's this massive anxiety in the characters, John, like Basil Fawlty. You don't get anyone more anxious than Basil Fawlty. So those levels are going to 600 volts. It requires an incredible performance, but that performance is fueled inside by this sort of desperation, this kind of mad kind of fury. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. John Cleese specifically, I'm a massive fan, and to bring that on as well, I want to talk about your Fawlty show, which I had no idea you were doing at the time. So to give a little context, I guess, I ran into you completely off the cuff outside the Little Majestic at Cannes Film Festival last year, and I loved it. I remember seeing you, and you were standing across the way from me in a fedora hat and a similar chain and a glass of water, and I called over, and we got talking, and you were just about to go off to Edinburgh to do that, and
that's a massive privilege because it was the original scripts. John Cleese had written the script back in 1979. They hadn't been on. They'd been amateur performed, but they hadn't been professionally performed for 40 years. So the people in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Festival was hearing those words live for the first time in 40 years. Now that's something.
That's rather special. That is rather special, I have to say. And that nicely takes us on. I want to talk about a little bit about your two shows, but maybe we should play your poem before that. Maybe we should get that a blast, because I think it's really, really good.
It actually tells my life. I think that's the reason why it's not an ego trip. I wrote it. I wrote it in the bath, as I say, during lockdown, and I've never written anything I think so succinct, which just spans my life and explains why I am where I am.
Okay. Well, that's a lovely intro. Let's roll it. Be back after these.
Brilliant.
Kicks, a poem by me. I remember my first taste of kicks, dry blackthorn and number 6, my school a paedophilic shrine, and I was sent. Kicks, a poem by me. I remember my first taste of kicks, dry blackthorn and number 6, my school a paedophilic shrine, and I was sent a naive 9. Or 9? I didn't want to go. Nowhere to run at all, My parents left for the Middle East. No fucking Brighton midnight feast. Abused children with lives rent. Preyed upon the innocent. One prefect, this cannot be excused, myself he already abused. In both my schools their bit of spice was trying hard to hang me twice. Comedy hangs on repetition, humour's black in this rendition. So that was it. Escape for me was boozing, cider, smoking free, and on and on and on and on. Dear oh dearie me, young John, what are you doing with your life? Do I care? This gives no strife. through smoke-filled rooms and boozy fug. I took any kind of drug. Coke, dope, speed, acid E killed my haunted memory. And at closing time I'd think I have to have the final drink. It ruled my life. I know that far. I'd cycle from the Phoenix bar off my tits, no fucking light. Audition at 10, I'll wing it, right? It's only bloody Channel 4, it's a fucking open door. They'll never see or even think that I'm the worst for bloody drink. This, my friends, is truly so. And drink, my mentor, kept me low, although at first was not the case. It killed my shyness, made me race after a couple of pints or so to any lady sat solo. At first they laugh and say, "You're funny." If only you really knew, my honey, what I carry around with me, my ball and chain, abuse, you see. But at that time I never saw what was there from days of yore. 3 pints in, I wasn't funny, and men would take those girls so sunny, and I would sit and simply think, I'd better have another drink. But party invitations came, and I would go and hear my name. Chris, Julie, Mary, Jackie, Garth, Johnny's here, he'll make you laugh. Years passed, and I bought a house and invited every single mouse to come and stay. I didn't care about its lack of home repair. I let it go and drank, my aspirations kind of sank. A tenant came one fateful night and set the fucking place alight. I was down £10,000. Can you surmise how many rounds? But enough of this time unpleasant, and let us move into the present. For I am dry now, on year 6, and it's a different kind of kicks. Sobriety won't tell you lies. I meditate and exercise. I tidy up my crumbling house. This year I haven't seen a mouse. I focus now upon my life. I eat good food. I have no wife or children yet. But you see, I have a different legacy. Of course I have my films and telly, but what irks my anxious belly is the darkness covering this earth, the acts of those blessed by birth, and teachers, priests running free, children on their every knee, those in institutional care, a roaming evil presence there, and others too, their hangers-on. We must make this filth be gone. And so I will fight, chap and blister, with the aid of my sister, and climb atop most every tree. In addiction's place, anxiety.
Well, isn't that rather lovely?
Well, it's a span of my life, and I think it's succinct. I would call it succinct. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely fantastic, and as I said before, it's beautifully written and performed, and in your own bath, no less, as well. But it's also it's so poignant as well, because you know it's from your heart, to say the least. But also it's as you say, it sums up in great detail quite a lot of the things that you've went through, and one of the things I remembered when I was listening to that, and I don't know if you've had the same experience, is my mom, God love her, she comes from a place called Gorta Hork, or Gorta Corca, which is one of the Gaeltacht areas in Donegal, where I'm from, where they speak entirely Irish Gaelic to each other on a daily basis as a one-to-one. Now, she, as a young woman, a young child even at that point, had a priest called Father Green. Now, he is one of these deplorable scumbag pedophiles, and was accused of such and put in prison. He got nowhere near enough time, but anyway, nonetheless, he came out of prison after, I don't know, I'd be guessing if I put a number on it, but I think it was under 5 years. And I mean, so much so that at the end of the movie Spotlight, which is fantastic if you haven't seen it, the Mark Wahlberg movie, wonderful. He's listed. Father Green is listed at the end of it. So there's all the pedophiles per country, and he's on that list. Anyway, the point is, when he came out of prison, you know what the local people did for him? Came together, rallied up and gathered up, it was like maybe 15 years ago now, so over a couple of €100,000 and bought him a house. So my point is, although the judicial system and a jury of his peers convicted him as a pedophile and a sex offender and put him in prison, even though that had happened, when he came out, the people were like, no, sure, no, it's all lies, people talking crap, he didn't do that, he's a man of the God, he's a man of the cloth, all this kind of bollocks. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Do you think...
Cheap mentality.
Absolutely. Do you think that mentality is changing? I do hope so. And I think that the more high-profile cases, like Harvey and Kevin Spacey and the various others. Well, Kevin Spacey is a bit different now, to be fair, but similar. Anyway, nonetheless, these are high-profile individuals coming out, or rather being outed as these pests. Do you think that the mentality of the people is now changing? And if a situation was to occur like that of Father Green again, God hope it doesn't. But if it were to. And do you think the same mentality would be held by the people? They would support him and rally around him and denounce all of his...
It's very interesting because you say that. My headmaster was, we know, was a fixated paedophile, Judge Roth, who was the a guy at the Crown Court. Called him that. So, you don't get higher than that. Mm-hmm. And yet people sung... for he's a jolly good fellow at his leaving party, because nobody wants to believe. Everybody wants to sit round and have their own. Do you know what I mean? It's like everybody comes together because no one wants to be out there on their own. And then they'll come in and they'll go, oh, well, he wasn't. And then someone will say, oh, no, he was. Come and have a cup of tea. Come and have a cup of tea. We'll talk about it. And then you get lured into that other world, and then they all start talking, and you go, oh, maybe he wasn't. Maybe these people are right. And that's the way, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People get sucked in by somebody who's maybe more powerful, or certainly not as wise as them, but they'll get taken into that bubble. And that's very dangerous. That's very dangerous, because people are not that area. You need to have an opinion in life. God help you if you do, because most of the time you'll suffer for it, but you've got to have an opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I think that sheep mentality is more prevalent and more obvious maybe now in today's society than ever before. I mean, just take the ridiculous protests and so forth that's going on in America right now, and also around the world, but primarily America. And, one would ask why it's that country and not another one, but that's for another day. But these people are protesting just yesterday I watched Anderson Cooper on CNN, I think he's on. He was interviewing the mayor of Nevada and the mayor of Las Vegas. And she was saying that she wants the federal government to allow her to open up her city again and to bring people back into the casinos. And that got... Anderson basically was saying, well, wouldn't that be a petri dish of infection? And she was saying, no, well, that's on the casino owners to figure out a way to keep everyone apart. So she's putting... profit above health, right? And she's saying, these casino owners, they're very sad now. They're sad. Fuck them guys. They're billionaires. It's the fucking staff. It's first of all,
anyway, aren't they? So I mean,
yeah,
you only have to see casino to know that.
Yeah, I mean the casino owners, those guys. Do you think they're going to be on the floor? Do you think they're going to be serving beers and doing whatever, taking the chance? No, they'll be in their penthouse or their yacht someplace. Yeah. It'll be their staff that'll be required and expected to go back to natural work, and that I just don't think is fair. And that's only one example of many. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I posted a video on my Facebook the other day of some lady from Florida. She believes that the coronavirus comes directly from drinking Corona. Yeah. Because apparently, and I wouldn't say I'll quote, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the quote, but to paraphrase and loosely quote, she said, us here in Fort Lauderdale aren't like those people, like those, quote, Mexicans in Miami drinking all that Corona beer. We drink PBR, which is Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is, I don't know if you know that, or it's fucking dishwater.
It comes from Corona drinks, shouldn't we? Our fizzy drinks from the 70s. Sorry, we had some fizzy drinks once, and
it's ridiculous.
Well, it stayed in our system, and they just turned into this terrible thing, and we just it's appalling. I've got cherryade, he's got orange. It's ridiculous. No,
it's absolutely absurd. I want to do something we try to do on the show is I call it the 3 W's, and I feel like it's the 3 W's I call it, which is where, why, and when. when. So the acting bug or the comedy bug or the performance, the creativity, whatever facet it came in for you, when did it come? Where did it come? And why? What took you?
Well, as you can imagine, when I was in that appalling school, and certainly I think it was in my second school, which was even worse, brutality was horrendous, and the first one was abuse, the second one was brutality. Wow, what a wonderful choice! But what happened was in one summer, I saw a sketch with Peter Cook and John Cleese on a park bench, and it was called Interesting Facts, and I'd seen. Everyone had been running around doing Monty Python or whatever, you know, and there'd been all this sort of, but there was this sort of a bit of a revolution in those days, and it was odd for a child of mine. I was very young, and it was around sort of punk, and I just watched this sketch between Peter Cook and John Cleese, and I found it the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I said, I want to do that. And now at that time, I asked my parents. I didn't care what I had for Christmas that year, but what I wanted was the book of those scripts and the pictures from that show. And that was it. That was my, there's a lot of people, you know, who are actors, but I've always loved comedians because I think they're much more daring. And I don't mean, there's lots of good actors brilliant actors out there. I mean, one of my heroes is Alec Guinness and Peter Sellers. You know, they're amazing actors. They're brilliant. And I adore actors. But for sheer edge, comics have got it.
I completely agree.
Go to the edge. They've got to be able to tread that line. You know, certainly when I play Basil Fawlty, you cannot, and you're doing and improvising and doing the original line, and someone's interrupting halfway through. You've got to be able to come up with stuff coming out your backside, and you've got a reviewer sitting there writing in the corner. You know, you've got to be really on the metal on this stuff. You really got to be on it.
Absolutely.
And that's why I love comics more in a way. Sellers and Cook, of course, was, and that was it. That was it. I wanted to be this guy who wrote this sketch. Where did this sketch come from? Did you know your intestines are 4 miles long? It's amazing how they cram them all in. You know, it means none of the food you eat's ever really fresh. You know, it's just nuts. And you're going, where did this mind come from? Where did this brilliant mind come from? And do you know where it did come from? It came from a small kid who was stuck in a boarding school who had asthma. And in those days, they used to stick injections because they didn't have inhalers in the 50s for, asthma. Nowadays, we have these inhalers, but then they had to inject the kids. So this guy was flying around the ceiling at night with this brilliant, brilliant mind and lost. So I think there's a huge tragedy in Peter. And yes, people say he wasn't sometimes a very nice man, but I'm sorry. But if you've been through hell and high water, you are not going to be nice all the time. It's not
Absolutely
part of
not.
your makeup, you know?
Absolutely not. And I totally agree with you. I think that comedy is like scripted comedy, where you're doing a comedic movie or play or television series or whatever it is. I think that is the most difficult of all the facets of acting. But to narrow it down even further again, specifically stand-up, I think is the most all holes barred, like bare your soul. There's nowhere to hide. I still threaten
to do an hour stand-up. I'm working on a one-man show, our stand-up show at the moment about mental health, with which is kind of 3 characters. So it's sort of a stand-up, but it's kind of more character, but it's also me being a stand-up. So it's a mixture, and I'm hopefully getting that together for later this year. But no, I was a finalist in the Hackney Empire New Act of the Year twice. I've always wanted to do. I did a stand-up act once, which went down so well, and then it was just me doing crazy shit, and then I went out and got completely pissed. And completely forgot my set.
Wow.
And then I went back the next day. What happened to that? I completely wasted. And that's another example of wasting your life. That stuff wastes your fucking life.
Yeah.
You know, that move just wastes your life. If I could remember what I did in that set, God knows where I'd be now. But, you know, it's that thing. No, I love the edge. My brother is a surfer. He's unfortunately, both my brothers were at the same school, and there's a tragedy in that. You know, one of them I haven't seen. He lives in Vietnam. I saw him very recently. I don't know if I'll see him again, but it's just so distant because he left because he had problems within the family and stuff like that, and he decided to get out. He just went out and now he says, I don't ever want to come back to England ever again. And I wonder what happened to him at that school, because we were all at the same school, and my other brother doesn't talk about it. I'm the only one who's really talking about it at the moment. I won't say who I don't like to give any names because that's wrong, but
of course.
But yeah, you know, I'm the one. In a way, what's really important is although it's important for other people to hear about what I'm saying, is that it's my, on behalf of my family that I'm also speaking.
Yeah, and bravo to you as well for that. When you were talking, I just remembered something I watched recently, and if you haven't, I would suggest that you watch it, and everyone else as well. It is a wonderful, wonderful documentary called Tell Me Who I Am. It's on Netflix. It's a wonderful documentary in that it's wonderful, but it's also harrowing at the same time. It's essentially two brothers, twins, identical twins. One of them, when he's around 16, 17 years old, he falls off his motorcycle, hits his head, and remembers nothing. Wakes up in the hospital, remembers absolutely zero, except who his brother is. Not what a chair is, not what the ocean is, not who his mom is, nothing. Except his brother. That's the only constant. So his brother decides to, he basically builds his life around his brother because that's the one thing he knows to be true. He builds his world around that. And his brother decides, do you know what? I have an opportunity here. I don't want to say too much, I don't want to give it away, but I have an opportunity here to give my brother, because I love him, the life that I want him to have. So whenever the brother would say, hey, so what did we do for summer? What did we do here? When did we do that? Did we do this? And they would go, oh, yeah, we used to go vacationing to the south of France, and they'd find a picture on the beach and go, oh, yeah, that's that. I don't want to say too much more than that, but it is heartbreakingly beautiful.
God. So he replaces it with things that he replaces, but obviously it was a lot worse than that.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Well, that's where I'm going with that. That's where my brain's going, because obviously I understand that.
Mm-hmm. I would love to tell you, but I don't want to give it away. But his brother, and it gets to the point when he becomes an adult and he realizes, hold on a minute, some of this stuff doesn't add up. What's going on here? And he asks his brother. His brother's called Alex. He says, Alex, what's up? This doesn't add up. What's going on? Tell me the truth. And his brother refuses. Point blank refuses to tell him at all, period, for years. And that caused a rift between the two of them. And it's just so sad but beautiful at the same time. And I don't mind to say, my brother told me about it, and it took me a little while to watch it, and I was watching it here at the end of it. If you don't get a feeling, or you ain't human if that doesn't affect you. It's beautiful.
Oh, no, that's so interesting, isn't it? Gosh. Yeah, but I can sort of let me explain something to you. What happens to you when you are put in an unfortunate situation, which happened to me? As far as I was concerned, when I was a little boy, I was in the local comp, and I was in the primary school, and everybody I had so many friends, it was stupid. I used to kick around a football, and I would have Arsenal, and my mate would be Tottenham. And we'd kicking around a football in his back garden, and I'd stay at different friends' houses all the time. And I was really liked. I don't know, maybe, I think there's a thing about comps and things like that. They like the rebel, whereas you go to a boarding school, they fucking hate the rebel. And so the minute I got packed away, it was like everything was in color, and then it all went into black and white. And then there's moments of black, I'm fogged out. I can remember very little of my time in that school. I can remember the abuse from that boy, which is in my poem. I can remember certain things that happened, but I don't know what else happened. I remember having a fight one day with a guy because I don't know. It was just a horrendous place, and I managed to wedge his head perfectly between these chicken wire lockers, and his head just fell perfectly. He was a horrendous kid. You've got to remember this. The things that went on there, and so I'm not someone who loses my temper easily, but this guy just completely and those surroundings in those places, you can imagine it was just hostile. Because what you have to remember is the kids who were being abused were the ones who were bullying, but we were kids. We didn't know these kids were being. Why would we know these kids are being? We don't know they're being abused, but they're being abused, and then they pick on the guys underneath who they think aren't being abused.
It's a vicious cycle, and it's just that kind of behavior perpetuates that kind of behavior, And there's many examples and great stories and films and so forth about that. Song for a Raggy Boy comes to mind, the Aidan Quinn film, which is wonderful back in the day. Again,
so many. Maybe stay away from them because it does actually impact me a little. I can't watch too much dark stuff because it will have a thing on my head. So I tend not to try. I try and stay in the light these days more than I do the dark. But which is where I think we all should be.
Yes, absolutely. And that nicely brings us on to try and lighten it up, because we're coming up. We have about 10, maybe 6 or 7 minutes left. So let's talk about career wise now and what's going on now. I know you did tell me first of all. You did tell me that you got, well, we can't say what it is exactly, but you have a rather large Netflix program coming soon, but we can't.
It's coffin and spit.
That's all we can say on that front.
Quite big, yeah. A little thing, but it's nice to get seen, isn't it?
Yeah, and you also are in a wonderful new picture. I haven't seen it obviously yet because it's not complete. And later on in the season, our good friend Sean Cronin will be in here to have a chat with us.
He's a mentor. I love him. The man is the only man I know who's got a pirate ship. You know, I mean, that
I
guy,
know, right?
Like
a legit pirate ship. Yeah.
Who? The man's a lunatic, but I absolutely adore him.
Same.
I don't know why the hell he cast me in this. It's crazy because they needed someone from the Northeast. And I can do a Newcastle accent, but the Darlington accent is very difficult.
Yeah, in this film, it's called Give Them Wings. It's the Ian Hodgins biopic.
It's sort of very near sort of slightly, it's Vic Reeves really, and it's sort of Bob Mortimer. And I sort of listened to Reeves and Mortimer a little just to sort of balance it up. But luckily, I had a really good guy. Oh, it's a fantastic lead actor in that film who's going to go be such a star, who plays the main guy, Dan Watson, fucking brilliant. And it's surrounded by wonderful people like Toya Wilcox, who's absolutely lovely. Deborah Stevenson, who was in it was a brilliant impressionist. It was in the Impression Show with John Culshaw and Bad Girls and things like that. Fantastic. She played my wife. And then who else is Bill Fellows, 120.
Bill. He's wonderful.
Phenomenal actor. I mean, really, surrounded by gold. And, you know, I was lucky because I used to say to Dan, does that sound right, Dan? Dan, does that sound right? And he'd go, yeah, it's fine. Oh, okay, it's fine. You know, and so I wouldn't dare do that right now. That certain things I'm quite shy of doing. You know, I would never do that sort of accent now, but hopefully it'll hold on the film. I don't know. We'll
I mean, it looks absolutely wonderful. It looks really good. Sean sent me a little clip.
It was called Give Them Wings for the reason I don't want to go into any of the plot because Sean had killed me, but it was called Give Them the Wings because it's about giving someone wings, in other words, giving them the freedom to fly. And in a way, what's nice is I normally play a lot of bad guys. I played loads of bad people. If you don't really look at my stuff, most of the time I rarely play a good guy. And this one I play a really lovely guy. And it's nice to have and it's actually perhaps it's an echo of my life coming forward, you know, from the darkness into the light. As if all the darkness I played, I'm now starting to play light. Although I don't necessarily want to play lighter characters because sometimes they're fucking boring. But I like to play, you know, the slightly darker, edgier people still to this day.
Absolutely,
it's lovely to be able to
they're much more
who
fun.
leads a light in the film. What?
They're much more fun as an actor, as we both are. I mean, the darker characters, the more sinister stuff, you get to delve quite a bit deeper into the facets of what makes us a human being, or into our psyche, and explore that. And that's much more interesting for any actor. But at the same time, it's always nice as well to play, you know, because there's nothing wrong, because there is plenty monsters out there, but there's also lots and lots of really good, nice people. And there's nothing wrong with representing that as well.
Absolutely, and there was a sort of joy in this because he's like the light of the film, and there's a loveliness in that you're leading it's a very dark film in many ways, you know. It's a true story, and there are many nasty moments in it, but there's a lighter sense to it as well. And it's nice to sort of lead the light, and I feel like that's where I am now, so that was a real pleasure to do.
Yeah, and I should say it's Paul Hodgins, right? I think I might have said Ian at the start. It's Paul, right?
Paul. What's his second name? Gosh, I'm terrible.
Is it Hodgins?
Paul. No, I think it's Hodgins. It's something like something like that.
I'm sure Sean will correct me.
Yeah, you look it online. It's called Give Them the Wings. It's wonderful. It's directed by Sean Cronin. Lovely cast. Yeah, really great people. Great people.
So I want to, because we're just about wrapping up, but we have another few minutes left or so. But for anyone listening, first of all, I want to make it very clear that while this stream is live, the podcast will be put out on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, etc., in the coming weeks and released in chronological order. So if you're listening via the podcast, then please don't try and chime in because we ain't here. If you are watching live, please do get into us, and you can ask questions. But for those of anyone who is listening in either respect, that may have went through a situation similar to yourself, and now looking at someone like you, who's had the courage and the bravery to come out and stand up to that and go, do you know what? No, it's
courage and bravery. I don't see it as that. I see it as truth. I think there's a difference. Truth is the most important thing in life. If we can't face our truth, if we can't face who we really are, then we're letting ourselves down as human beings. Because by facing our truth and having honesty and opening ourselves up and saying, this is who I am, we let other people in who need to get in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. But what I'm trying to get at here is what advice would you give to anyone out there who is in any industry? Doesn't matter which one it is, but if you do happen to be in ours, because the vast majority of our listeners are in the arts in some form, how would you, or what would you say to him or her out there listening to this?
I would say 2 words: don't drink. I cannot emphasize those words more. I threw my life away because of that stuff. I threw my career away because of it. People won't work with me to this day because of my antics when I was drunk. I can't remember. Everyone said I was a fun drunk, but people knew I was a drinker. Casting directors won't tell you if you're drunk. I know that I used to stagger in, but I thought, they won't notice. Of course they bloody noticed. And people knew I was a drinker. But you don't know it because it takes you by the throat. It cost me women. It's cost my life. It's cost so much because of that shit. But that comes from a dark past, which I did have. But if you're a drinker, I'm not saying there's some people who drink and they haven't had dark past and that kind of thing. That's fine, having the odd drink. If that's fine, if you like that, that's your boat, that's fine. But it's a very, very evil drug. It's the worst drug of all the drugs.
That's what I was thinking while you were talking is, I don't know if the word funny or ironic, or I don't know what the word actually is here, but alcohol, which I agree with you, is probably one of the worst ones, albeit it's the legal one. It's the one that the government say, hey, have a drink. That's okay. But if you smoke a joint...
It's like they're trying to do with vaccines. It's everything. They're trying to... It's so long as we make more money, that's what it's all about, So it's horrendous, but that's what it is.
Bill Hicks actually has a great bit on alcohol, which I think is great. To paraphrase again, he says something to the effect of, I've when I've been taking drugs, weed usually, that mellows you out. I've never wanted to fight with anyone after a joint or whatever it is. Now I'm butchering his bit now, but he has a great bit on it.
I love that. It's so true.
You know
I love
what I mean?
it. I love Bill Hicks because he again is someone who tells the truth.
Absolutely.
I think economics are prophets.
Yeah.
People who, this is kind of, I'm not a prophet, but I'm someone who tells the truth.
And I love it.
To be honest about things, and that by my honesty, then other people will find that honesty, hopefully within themselves.
Well, Johnny, it's been an absolute pleasure. We are just about at the end of it.
We have plugged my shows. I've got to plug my show.
Of course. No, absolutely.
Goodbye, the Afterlife in Cookamore, on at the Online Fringe Festival. Starts on Monday for 2 weeks, for free, completely free. It's really naughty. It's filthy. It's about the greatest, my hero, one of the greatest comedians ever, and the most rebellious man, a brilliant man who I think suffered a lot and no one really knew about it. And, of course, Dudley and my friend Clive, who plays every comedian under the sun. You'll have a bloody ball. Get off Netflix, watch it, watch some Rebellion, it's very punk comedy. It's very in your face. It's very me. It's written with Clive and I wrote it, but we really want to take it further. We need producers on that. And that is possibly for television, because it may well feed that way. We got a director on it called Vadim John, who I work with on, who's won a BAFTA and he's won a couple of Rose d'Ors. Or maybe one Rose d'Or. I'm not sure. I don't want to exaggerate, bastard. But I'm not going to give him too much. I'm here.
Well, the information's up on the screen there now for everyone who wants to jump on to the Edinburgh Fringe, the online Fringe Festival. The information's on the screen, and the link will be in the description below as well. So please do go check it out and see Johnny and his new show. As he said, it's Goodbye, the Life of Cook and More.
And also, Jay, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
The First Modern Man is a play that I wrote. I didn't write. I mean, as a one-man show about Michel de Montaigne, who was an incredible Frenchman, who was another rebel, who was just extraordinary. Wrote a book of essays that told you all the things we do today at a time when no one did. And that's also at the Online Fringe, and that's on till Sunday. But we'll run another week, 2 weeks later. So after Pete and Dad, that'll be on for another week. So yeah.
So the First Modern Man is on right now. And
First Modern Man on Sunday, and you can watch it free. It's about Michel de Montaigne. If you're interested in learning a little bit about French history, about an incredible man, then please, we've got 5-star reviews. I bribed them. That's another story. But anyway, that's just to do. There's only a small amount of heroin, but no, so that's on, and then of course, the First Modern Man is on as well. But the online fringefestival.com, because there's not just me, there's a lot of great plays on there, all free. Just if you want to make a donation, please do. But it's all free, and you can just spend an afternoon watching
some wonderful theater and learning as well. It's great watching, sitting back watching silly movies and whatever. But if you want to broaden your mind a little bit, learn, as you say, a little bit of culture and learn something maybe you didn't
learn
before.
About great comedians. These guys are legends, man.
Absolutely.
If you're young, you're 24, you've never seen Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, you've never heard of them. I remember when we were at the Edinburgh Festival, we had an 18-year-old came out, he saw the show 3 times, and we said, why did you come back 3 times? He said, you don't even know these people, these comedians are. He said, no, I came back because I understood the story. I loved the story. I didn't need to know who they were. But I just knew that it was a love story. It's not a gay love story. It's a story between 2 guys who were great comedians and fell apart in life, who really, truly loved each other, but could only find their love when they're faced with very difficult situations on the other side. So they're both dead, but they come back. It's a long story. You also watch the bloody thing.
That's absolutely wonderful. And just before we go, let's tell people where they can find you, all the socials and Facebooks and all that
myself,
stuff.
So that's very difficult. But what was that?
All the
I'm
socials.
Still trying to find please don't let anyone find me.
Well, in that case, maybe we'll veer away from that area. But no, please do go check out on the Fringe Online Festival. Go check out 2 wonderful shows. The First Modern Man, which is a one-man show that's going to be running right now, and Goodbye, The Life of Cook and More is going to be running till Sunday on the Edinburgh Online Fringe as well. Yes, sir.
I'll say one more thing.
Absolutely.
Kev Orkian plays Dudley Moore in it. Kev is a wonderful actor and a pianist since the age of 4.
Wow.
He's a genius. He is an absolute genius. He plays Dudley and he's phenomenal. So if you like Peter Cook and Dudley, you like Rebellion, you like Danger, you like Edge, stuff that you won't find in most theatre, watch this stuff. All right?
Well, I can tell you I will certainly be one of the online viewers this evening, and I'll be checking it out for sure. Johnny, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Spreading the word is so important. I mean, if there's anything, more important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I think one thing I'll say in passing, the last thing I'm going to say is, we can all have great careers. We can all be stars. We can all be big names or whatever. But the point is, that's as much. But that's not helping anyone else necessarily. The point is there's a lot of people out there who are suffering from bad stuff, and we need to get that kind of stuff. If people never want to work with me again, but I save someone from just, not having a bad life or, whatever, that's more important in a way, because I just think that people's lives are important, especially now. I mean, I don't know how people are coping who have suffered. I've certainly suffered, on my own. I'm having to deal with a lot of stuff. I imagine there are people who probably haven't dealt with it not as much as me, who are really suffering on their own, but they're not speaking out. They're not there. So this hopefully will help people.
Absolutely.
From that point of view.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as I said before, if you're listening and you've experienced or currently or have ever went through any of these situations, all the relevant and pertinent information will be in the description box below, where you can find support. Johnny, you're a star, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this, and I will talk to you again very soon. Lastly, before I go, when we do get out of lockdown, what's the first thing you want to do?
First thing I want to do, I want to go and hug people. I haven't had a hug. I haven't had a hug for ages. I have to hug myself.
Craving really human contact, isn't it?
You can rub,
Yeah, it's something I've been craving myself, is a bit of human contact, and whatever respect that would take. But yeah, Johnny, you're a star, my friend. Thank you so much. We are bang on time. I love it. And to paraphrase Liam Neeson, I love it when a plan comes together.
It didn't it? It did in the end. That's
Johnny,
the main thing. Oh, Jake, man, thank you.
You're a superstar, my friend. Thank you so much. And we're out.
Don't forget to subscribe to The Hub for the latest episodes. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms and media. The Hub, your weekly fix of all things film and television, and some other stuff. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jason Mathewson.